Okay, welcome to Fresh Set of Downs. Bruce Badgley, Daryl Daniel, and to help us sort out this week in District 3, Andy Shea from High School Football Now. Andy, you've been around the block, a lot of times. But
thanks, Bruce. That's really
but
hey, you're an old guy. Welcome.
Right. But have you ever seen a week in District 3 like we went through this week?
No, I don't think there's a lot of things you're not going to see I've seen in 2020 that I've never seen before. The power ratings were volatile. They're always volatile every year in the first 5 to 6 weeks, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because it's not set yet. It's teams are figuring it out, but nobody looks at them in a regular season until after week 7 because it doesn't make any sense to look at them. Well, this year with everybody having 5 and 6 or needing the required minimum 4 games, they're volatile. And, it was crazy. Could Harrisburg get a game and get in? Could they find somebody to play them before the deadline? Bishop McDevitt was in. Then the perfect storm happened for Bishop McDevitt, and all of a sudden they're not in. 3 or 4 undefeated teams around the district didn't make it. Wilson's sitting there going in. Central York's looking at a home game in 6A. Harrisburg upsets the apple cart. Then Harrisburg gets a COVID case and announces it 5 hours after the brackets were set. And District 3 had a rule for COVID playoffs for all sports. They will replace with the next team up until the brackets are set. So if you have COVID problems and you were going to be in and it's before they set the brackets, they'll replace you with somebody. After the brackets are set, the game becomes a forfeit. That was all sports, including football. Well, 5 hours after they set the brackets on Monday, Harrisburg announced it has a positive COVID on their football team. Less than 24 hours after they kicked off to get the game, they're in, they're out. It was absolutely bonkers.
I saw something too, that there was a letter that was dated or time stamped prior to the brackets being set. Did you see anything related to that? It was, I think, an internal Harrisburg memo or that
about the brackets being set. I'm not sure what you're what you're asking me. So the District 3 brackets were that they came out with that guideline in August when they were trying, back when it was, and a lot of people forget this now, let the kids play, just let them play. We just want to play. Where did that go? But they came up with guidelines, and that was part of the guidelines that they set in September, that as the power ratings for each sport are evolving, if somebody's in a COVID position, we will replace the next highest team in the power ratings in that classification. But once the brackets are set, and that means that's the start of competition, right? We've set the brackets, the deadline's passed, everything's finalized. That's it. If you can't participate because of COVID, we're not rescheduling, we're not moving stuff, it becomes a forfeit and the tournament moves on. So that was the rule they came up with in August. They released it in August, told everybody about it in August. Well, now it's October, and we just want to play, and let the kids play seems to be like 600 miles in the rearview mirror. Because the crazy part is there are limited fields in District 3, right? There are 2 in 1A and 2A and 4 in the other 4 classifications. That was said as well, which is not normal as well. The crazy part of it is, okay, you didn't make it, and I understand as a competitor, but you can still play 3 more football games or 2 more football games. You could continue to play. It's not like your season is over. So that's the unusual, but still kind of good. You could keep playing. There's still some league championships to be decided, division championships to be decided. You can lose your first round playoff game and then pick up 2 more games.
Yeah, right. What about, and then I don't think that we all understood the impact of when those rules were made or in August, what you talked about, the power rankings, by basically the schools, a lot of the schools, and we talked to Bill Miller down at Northern York last week, and he's sweating it because he lost his schools off his schedule that were his, power rankings teams.
Correct. Because the Mid-Penn Conference, which Northern's a part of the Mid-Penn Conference, they were making you play conference games, right? Since it's such a limited schedule, and they were the latest starter in District 3. Burke started Lancaster Lebanon League and the York Area Interscholastic Athletic Association. They all started a week before the Mid-Penn Conference.
Right.
So they already had an inherent extra game, but they were all doing either sections or leagues or, divisions. It was all inside. You could not go outside and get an outside game. So they were forcing four opponents on you, basically.
And so ultimately, that's what I guess impacted Bishop McDevitt and their power ranking, falling them out of the playoffs, right?
Well, it was a perfect storm. So I'll explain it to you guys this way, Bruce and Dale. It was a perfect storm of three things. One is the four teams above them are also unbeaten, right? Your opponent's winning percentage. In other words, who you play and who they play and what their weighted winning percentage is, that really matters. Bishop McDevitt stunk. That's part of the problem. It's not their fault. You can only play what's in front of you.
Right.
You don't expect Cumberland Valley to be 1-4.
Right.
They played Cumberland Valley. You don't expect Cedar Cliff to be 2-3. If either Cumberland Valley beats Chambersburg on Friday, which was a 50-50 game, and Cumberland Valley lost 20-10, or Cedar Cliff beats Carlisle, which was a 50-50 game, and Carlisle won 35-28, McDevitt's in. All of the teams on their schedule also lost. So everybody last Friday that was on their schedule dragged their opponent's winning percentage down even more, dragged their power rating down even more, and they fell onto the outside looking in. And by the way, all four of the teams in front of you, they also are won all their games as well. And it's the Mid-Penn Conference was a problem this year. It's very top heavy. Harrisburg, who was really, really good, by the way.
Yes.
Harrisburg was really, really good. Like, wow, they're that good? Like, I knew they were going to be good, but then I saw them, I was like, and I had seen Central Dauphin already, and I was like, oh, man, they are. And I knew that they had two offensive linemen. One they lost for the year last year, one they lost the last four games. They were both sophomores. They're both good. They got bigger, stronger, faster, better, and they already had Nate. I knew they were really good. The quarterback got a lot better in the offseason. They found another running back, which they always do, and they always have 5 wide receivers. But they were really good. But the Mid-Penn Conference was top-heavy, very, very top-heavy. McDevitt, Central Dauphin, Harrisburg. After that, Steel High's good in the Capital Division. Middletown's okay. After that, you fall off a cliff. I mean, it is a very high number of bad football teams. And one of the strengths of the Commonwealth Division of the Mid-Penn Conference, which is Harrisburg, Central Dauphin, Cumberland Valley, CD East, it's the depth of that division that always has made it so strong, not the top end. And the depth this year across the entire conference, and particularly in the Commonwealth Division, is just BAD bad. It's just bad football, a lot of bad football. I mean, Cumberland Valley is 1-4 and could easily be 0-5 and can't score more than 10 points a game. You don't expect that. So that hurt Bishop McDevitt as well.
It's just been a really crazy year. Now looking forward,
Sure.
And what do you see? Not only for the district playoffs, for the PIAA, not necessarily teams, but do you expect like this, soap opera of teams forfeiting in that to carry on all the way to Hershey?
Well, I think the pandemic, this is just the line I always use, the pandemic's in control, right? You're at the mercy of the pandemic. And kids are going to school, people are out. It's just, I think there's going to be teams impacted by it all the way through. we've had probably half a dozen teams just in the Mid-Penn Conference, 5, I think, maybe 6, that have started, stopped, started, stopped. You know what I mean? Like Susquehanna Township and Coach Heaton started 1 week of practice, stop, started again, played 1 game, stop, restart, and now they've played 2 games in a row. That's hard to do. And I think it's going to impact teams. Harrisburg is the prime example. If you get a positive COVID test on your football team, most schools, districts in the state of Pennsylvania are saying you have to shut your program down for at least 10 days, right? It's 10 days. That's mandated. That's why Harrisburg can't do any sports until November 5th. So I do think it's going to have an impact going forward. I don't know how it's going to be, but the virus is alive and it's well, and it seems to be flourishing again like it was in March and April, unfortunately. So you have to think it's part of the equation. I think you have to factor it in as part of it. Look at Wisconsin and Nebraska. Big Ten football. They canceled that game. Now, Wisconsin, no matter what they do and when they get back on the field, no matter how good they were or bad, they are not going to be college football playoff eligible or bowl eligible.
Crazy. Daryl, you have a last question for Andy?
Yeah.
No, I mean, because go ahead. What you gonna say, Andy?
Just fire away. Let me know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you pretty much answered all the questions and everything we want to talk about, because, you know, the question I was going to ask, what Bruce just said, you know, we talked about, you know, getting to a state championship game, and you have B team versus A team. B team a week before the game finds out they have a COVID test. A team wins the state championship, and that's what's so scary. That can happen.
That can happen.
And you can't say whatever's the asterisk. That team has a state champion.
Safety first, right? It's gonna happen. I mean, look, let's be. I'm just gonna be honest with you. By far the weakest team in 6A in District 3 is William Allen, which is York High. They're by far the weakest. Wilson's way better than them. Manheim Township's way better than them. They play in the York League, and the York League is just inherently weak, especially when you're at a high-level school. But they're going to be in the district final. That's 2020 for you in a nutshell right there. Good for them. I hold no grudge against them. But football-wise, when I look at it, they're not even close to any of the other teams. Harrisburg's out. Wilson's out. Manheim Township. Those are all programs you know and recognize. They're all out. And York High couldn't touch them on their best day if one of those 3 teams had their worst day. It really wouldn't be still not that close. But they're going to play in the district finals, so good for them.
Right.
Wow.
So, but yeah, don't be surprised if it happens. Semifinals is as we get further along and you have to practice more and you're playing more and you're together more, it's good. And you have to be indoors more because it's winter and we live above the, demarcation line.
Yeah.
Cold. And you have to be inside. The semifinals is really the round that I think it might impact it if you put me in a spot. Yes, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in one of the classifications, if one of the semifinals, you found a team automatically advancing to the state championship without playing.
Right.
Wow. Andy, listen, thank you very much. I really enjoy your show with Eric. And, thanks for sorting it all out for us. I know that, you've been on the front lines of this. Daryl and I have been kind of doing this, and we appreciate, everything you've done to not only enlighten us, but enlighten the fans.
Yep. Good football teams are not in the playoffs, and it's happening all around the state.
Yeah.
Right.
Because everything's limited, everything's short, and it's a COVID world we live in now. And there's good football teams that aren't going to have an opportunity. McDevitt's a really good football team. Now, I will tell you, McDevitt's time is next year. That's going to be when they're going to be really, really good. Because I saw all those sophomores and freshmen, and I was like, okay, I found the 2 or 3 seniors, including the quarterback. But other than that, 80% of their talent is sophomore and freshman.
Wow.
And a few juniors sprinkled in. So their run or their time was going to be next year, but I'd still like to have seen them have a crack this year and get their feet wet.
Yeah, it would have just made them that much better for next year.
They'll be fine. Don't worry about them. They got all the right pieces.
Yeah.
All right, Andy, thank you very much, man. We'll see you around.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Take care.
All right.
We'll see you.
See ya.
All right.
Bye.
So I'm glad that we had Andy on because that was very complicated in how things went down. Daryl, I mean, you know, you and I were on that roller coaster this week, and I don't know. Tuesday was the wildest day ever that I can ever remember. What about you?
Yeah, it was crazy, and I was fortunate to be able to talk to a lot of different coaches and stuff like that, and just, I mean, just the disappointment, and then, you know, if you're a senior and you're thinking this is going to be a year, you have an opportunity to really make history in your team, and knowing that's taken away from you, that's tough. I mean, I went through it in high school.
Yeah, talk about that. You know, you and I were talking on the phone, obviously Tuesday, but
Right.
talk a little bit about, you know, and you were actually playing when there only were 4 teams, or were there 2 teams? Talk about your disappointment and how you got through it.
Well, you know, in high school when we were playing, there was only 4 teams that made it to districts. That was it, and there was only 4 classes. So you had to be the best of the best. So my senior year was the first year they started this whole power rankings rating system. So us and Manheim Central were clearly the best teams in District 3. You know, again, it's just, and again, these are my opinions. You know, I always tell people I can't make my opinion your fact, but we were my senior year, we played at Conestoga Valley, and at Conestoga Valley, there was probably 9,000 people at that game. They were ranked 2nd in the state. We were ranked 4th in the state that year. It was a monster game. The year before, we played in the district championship, and I think they beat us by 7 or 6 or something like that. And so, and we both ranked in the top 5 that year. So then the senior year, we were even better. So we went 9-2 my senior year and did not make the playoffs. And the disappointment as a senior, you know, being able to say, okay, after we lost to Central, we're like, okay, well, we're going to have a chance to see them again at district championship, and, you know, blah, 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 blah. But it didn't happen. And so when, like, a lot of these guys, I know what they're going through, especially some of these teams that are undefeated, but, you know, even though it's still tough to take, like Andy just said, you like look at the power ratings, the teams that lost, the win percentages of the teams you played and things of that nature. So obviously I don't remember all that, but I just know we were 9-2 and we didn't make the playoffs that year. So I can understand fully a lot of these teams that Wilson, Burst Catholic, Bishop McDevitt, all these teams that didn't make the playoff. I totally understand that because I've been there. It actually happened to me my senior year.
Yeah, and I guess too, and look, we all had, you know, I mean, to District 3's credit, I mean, everything has been laid out and the rules have been set, like Andy talked about, till August, okay? And clearly, we were all asleep at the wheel, okay? That what should have come to mind when these things came about and when everybody was adjusting their schedules accordingly is like, all right, what are the downstream effects of all these decisions that all these conferences are making based on how many games they were going to play and who they were going to play? Okay.
Right.
That the downstream effect is the power ranking, and that's the ultimate determination of who is or isn't going to make the playoffs. So everybody, like I said, we were all asleep at the wheel. And only as we saw this go along, there were certain guys that were watching this the whole time. Obviously, Bill Miller was one of them because he was the one that was saying, well, look, all of my, you know, top games for power ranking were early on. And that's what, you know, we talked about as well, is that unfortunately, the Mid-Penn was adversely affected because of what Andy pointed out, the fact that it was a very top-heavy conference this year. And who benefited? Well, you know, some other teams. And it was funny, I was on the phone with the coach at Conrad Weiser earlier, I think Monday night or over the weekend, and we talked about the fact, and I told him, I said, look, Fleetwood and Twin Valley winning are what got you in the playoffs.
Right.
Not the fact that you were undefeated, but because they won their last games.
Yeah.
And Fleetwood actually picked up a game, I think.
They did.
To get in there. So look at that. I mean, here's another situation where not even it had nothing to do with, picking up a game for them, because one of their opponents picked up a game, and one is the likely reason why one team got in the playoffs and another did. Now,
Right.
that's when you really cut to the chase and really, pull away all the layers of the onion there, and that to find out. But it is what it is. The rules were set. Kudos to District 3 for towing the line on this. I know that there were some, some heated discussions and stuff like that. But I thought, I mean, what can you do? The rules are the rules, and they adhered to them. What do you think?
Yeah, and Andy did a great job explaining it. Again, it still doesn't, for some people, it still probably won't set well. And I understand, because again, I was in that same position. So we're not being insensitive. And, I know you can say, well, we were better than this team or we were better than that team. We were too. But we didn't make it. We didn't make it. So, but the good thing, like he said, the teams there's still 3 games they can play if they wanted to. So the seniors, some of these seniors, just like, instead of it looking at negative, it's just like, okay, I still have opportunity to play this game I love. Go out there and play these 3 games. If you win, go undefeated. You say you're the champion. Whatever you want to do, whatever you make up shirts. But again, like he said, all we want to do is play football. Let them play, and you have an opportunity to play 3 games. Take it, because again, when it's going, I can answer that. When it's over, it's over. There's no going back. I wish I woulda, shoulda, coulda. That only matters in hand grenades and horseshoes. So you have an opportunity these next 3 weeks. And again, I understand. I understand. So you can't say we don't understand, because I understand, because I've been there as a senior. When you have a chance to go to the district championship and possibly go to the state semifinal and play a Berwick or something like that, after going to state championship my sophomore year, like, we were ready to go, but it just didn't happen. So, again, you got to look at the pros and cons. You still have an opportunity to possibly play 2 or maybe 3 games. So go ahead and take advantage of it and get those games in.
Yeah, and like I said, kudos to District 3. I mean, everything has been transparent. There's nothing that that was decided at 11:59 here. So good for them. So all right, well, what I'm going to do here is I am going to try and get my screen here together so that we can pull some stuff up. And so you're seeing the website there, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's pull up the power rankings just as a final review here, and you can see how nice District 3 has basically highlighted the teams that have made the playoffs. And we'll go down through the actual dates and times here in a moment or two. We'll pull up the actual brackets and when everybody's playing. But golly, I mean, you look at where it came down to. Your Columbia team, I mean, just so close in getting in.
Right.
And quite honestly, in AAA, look at how close Hamburg came pretty close to making the AAA playoffs. That's a team and a program here in Berks County that's not talked about a lot. But you know what? They've got a good group of guys out there competing every single week. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and they got a young team too. So they got a young quarterback, a young receiver. Obviously, they got some older guys sprinkled in there. But I think next year they should be able to step up. They have a good offseason. If everything goes well, where they can have off-season training program, get in the weight room and things of that nature, I think they'll be a lot better.
Yeah, and Quad A,
Like that.
the eye test tells you that probably, Bishop McDevitt and Berks Catholic and even Cocalico, but, the teams that are in there are Lampeter Strasburg, Elko, Northern York, and Conrad Weiser. I mean, they did everything that they possibly could do, and it got them in.
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty interesting there. But, 4A, we said that was going to be a landmine.
Yeah.
just a landmine field, and it sure was. There weren't any real surprises. Talked a little bit about, and Andy touched on a little bit about the fact that Hershey really was in 5A was hurt by its power ranking, but it's hard to argue, with anytime you're doing these things. So who are you going to take out?
Right. Exactly. Right.
So
You had to
who's
play who's
Hershey?
in front of you.
Right. Who's Hershey supposed to replace? All four of those teams really outstanding seasons to date. And, it's going to be very interesting. And then obviously the saga of 6A, where now Harrisburg is out, and it's going to be, Central Dauphin hosting William Penn
Central York.
Central York.
Yeah.
And that. So, it just, your heart goes out for, just as we were saying, your heart goes out for all of these teams, but at some point in time, you've got to, it's got to end. And, and that's really where we're at. So let's go back and we'll take a look at the actual brackets now. And with our great website here, in District 3, love their website. And what we're going to do, we're going to start with the brackets that start this week, which are 6A. And they've got this revised bracket in here. But you can see, starting this Friday, you can see that Harrisburg has the forfeit from William Penn. But Andy touched on a little bit about York Adams teams. Is there any way that we're going to see a York Adams 6A final between Central York and William Penn, or do you think Central Dauphin's going to spoil the YAIAA party?
Well, listen, we both was at the state championship last year and saw Central Dauphin. They took that tough loss to St. Joe's. St. Joe's is not in it this year. So they feel good about their chances. Obviously, there's no disrespect to the West, but they feel really good about their chances. They're firing on all cylinders. They had that COVID case early, didn't they have one early, like right when things first started?
Yeah.
And so, but I mean, I think those guys, that senior leadership is over there. They're doing a great job. Central York is a deep team. They have a lot of good kids, a lot of good athletes.
Got a lot of firepower.
But I don't know. I think that's going to be a tough task for them to go to Central Dauphin and beat them.
Yeah, I do too. But how incredible would it be to have a YAIAA District 3 6A final?
They're due. They're due to have somebody win something. They're way past due.
Yeah. All right. Well, and I'm learning how to do this thing here. Let's go to the 3A playoff next, because that's who's playing this week as well.
Mm-hmm.
So on Friday night, Middletown is hosting Bermudian Springs. And here's another situation too, where, there's not a complete body of work to determine power rankings, but it is what it is. And Middletown playing, just 4 games, basically backs into the number 1 seed there, and they're hosting Bermudian Springs. What do you think about that game?
Yeah, and the thing is, with only having 4 games in, one thing we won't be able to say, like, these kids should be fresh. I mean, these kids aren't worn down for a tough, grueling 10 game. I mean, so like it could be interesting, because anything can happen now to play. Because again, Middletown, I mean, they should be fresh. I mean, so but what is this? 7 years in a row for Middletown being in the playoffs or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's almost tough to almost keep those guys out of the playoffs, actually. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. But I think you kind of give them the upper hand against Bermuda and Springs. But again, it's the playoffs. You can't count anybody out.
And on Saturday, I'm going to walk over to the A field and watch Wyomissing and Boiling Springs. That's going to be very interesting. Wyomissing, the eye test, tells you that, they're likely the best team in 3A in the district, but the seeding is based on the power rankings, and it is what it is. So, but they do have a home game this Saturday. We talk about the enormous advantage of playing on the A field on a Saturday, and I really like Wyo's chances against Boiling Springs this week. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, they're fired up not being able to get that number 1 seed. But again, like you said, if you go by the power ratings and the numbers and all that stuff, like you said, it is what it is. But they understand what's in front of them. They understand the goal. So I don't think they'll be deterred. So they're going to go out there and do what they do, and they're going to be ready to play football.
Yeah, they will. That's clear. I mean, Coach Wolfram is going to make sure that he's got those guys ready. And the 1A championship is actually being played this Friday. We kind of touched on this a little bit this week, but what a whale of a championship game. I think whether it went 6 games or 10 games, these were probably the 2 teams that were going to end up there anyway. And what a whale of a 1A championship. Who you like here?
I mean, DeLone Catholic, they look very, 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 very good. But I think Steel High getting past Middletown this year, they look like they did some things different on offense. I mean, their game changer. He's really stepped up this year. I think they're poised to get back because it's been a while since they've been in the state playoffs. It's been a while since they've been in that win a district championship. So I think they're going to be ready to rock and roll. And I don't see DeLone stopping them this time.
I mean, look, clearly in my mind, there's going to be some tough. There's going to be some tough competition coming out of the WPIAL from Clairton or Jeanette in 1A. Yeah. I think that those are the only – whoever comes out of the WPIAL, I think, is the only team that's going to compete with Steel High, for a state title. So, I like Steel High there. I think that they're, Coach Irby is – great coach. He's got some wonderful talent. I like Steel High a lot as we move into November. I really do. And we're just going to round out. We're just going to round out the field here. We'll just show the 5A, or let's go with the 4A bracket, so everybody can see the matchups here. We'll have next week, and these start next Friday night, not this week. So each of these teams are playing this week. And since we're on that, how would you believe? Do you think that that's a difficult motivator for a coach when these guys know what the ultimate objective is and they've got games to play this week?
No, because again, we know what the goal is. So this game is going to be a game they go out there, probably get the varsity guys in there first quarter, a little bit of second quarter, so they could just stay moving, just stay in routine, and then get them out the game to get ready for next week. So, but you still got to get out there, get on the field, go through the whole game preparation phase, and just be ready to go and play the game again. First quarter, second quarter, and then they'll probably be out of the game.
Well, LS hosts Conrad Weiser next week. Elko, who's been just a great story this year.
Yeah.
They're going to host our buddy Bill Miller and Northern York. Those are going to be 2, wonderful games that we'll get in a bit more next week. One game that we're going to touch on here now is going to be in the 5A bracket. The number 1 seed, Governor Mifflin, they host Mechanicsburg next week, but this week they're playing Berks Catholic for the Section 1 title of the Berks League. So there's a lot on the line.
Yeah.
So, and obviously we had Coach Lang on earlier in the year. He talked about how he really liked his senior leadership. But, you know, is this Berks Catholic a trap game for them, knowing that obviously their ultimate goal is probably a district championship?
Yeah, it's tough. Like, you're like, do we want to go out and play and try to win this game? Do we want to protect our guys? Like, what do we want to do? This is tough because, again, you want that section championship. It'll be, I think, 13 and 15 years or something like that.
Right.
But then you also want to protect your guys because that District 3 championship is huge. And Mechanicsburg is not going to be a pushover. That's tough. I wouldn't want to make that decision. That'd definitely be tough because, again, but football players play, and as I'm sure that's what Coach Lang is saying. Like, we're football players, you go out and play the game, but you still got to be careful. But again, you can't let that get in anyone's mind. Just go out there and play football. We're going to be healthy. We're going to be fine, and then let the chips fall where they may.
It's Berks Catholic Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
And it's not Governor Mifflin's. You touched on it. It's 13 section titles in 15 years and 0 district titles for Governor Mifflin in their school history. Boy, I tell you what, I think it's.
They had the one a couple years ago versus Harris when they beat Harrisburg. Remember when they played Lawson?
Well, that was a semifinal. They lost the district championship to Manheim Central that year. So.
Oh, that's right. Yep. That's right.
So, you know, they don't have any district championships in school history. They've got 13 section championships. Now, granted, you know, and the fact that Berks Catholic's coming in, like I said, this is their Super Bowl. They're not going any further. So for them to win the Section 1 championship in their first year of being a Section 1 team,
yes,
an awful lot of motivation there.
Absolutely. So again, like, you're going to have to just be ready to play football. That's it. They got to come ready to play because Berks Catholic will. So they don't want to hear nothing about, well, we didn't play. Berks Catholic is saying we're section champs, and that's all that's going to matter.
Well, my buddy Kerry Moyer and I get to call this game, so I'll have a front. Well, it won't be front row seat, but I'm sure you'll be watching. Hopefully.
Oh yeah, I'll be watching. I'll definitely be watching.
And then Warwick and New Oxford. Like I said, we'll go into these, 5A and 4A matchups a bit more next week. But yeah, I mean, hard to believe, man. We're down to one more show.
Right.
I mean, in the year, that is just crazy.
Yeah, it's been a crazy year, 2020. That's all you can say.
But we've had an awful lot to talk about, that's for sure. And, always appreciate your insight in what goes on here. And we appreciate Andy Shea joining us to sort out maybe the craziest week I've ever seen in District 3. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, definitely. You just got to hope that next year this COVID situation gets resolved and everything's better. We can move forward without having to do anything like this, and we can get back to some type of normalcy next year. But, I mean, it's tough. I mean, this was a tough year, and we didn't know what to expect going into the season. At one point, we weren't going to have a season. So, at least they did come up with a system, which Andy said in August. So we did have a system to figure it all out. It just didn't go some people's ways, which it is unfortunate, and they do have legit arguments. But I mean, we're in the playoffs now, so.
Correct, exactly. We're in, and see, that's the odd thing for me, is that we've got 3 classifications that are in the playoffs and 2 classifications that aren't. But whatever. I mean, I'm just glad we're playing football, as I think is everybody else. It's a shame that, we had kind of the controversy that we had this last week. You know, usually it's pretty cut and dry or whatever like that. But you know what? We all knew what the rules of the game were before we started. And just because it doesn't work out the way that we want to, it doesn't mean that you can change that. I mean, that's life. So
Yeah, it is.
anyway. All right, my man. Well, listen, great show. It'll be our season finale next week as we head into, you know, district championship games and whatnot. So, Daryl, thank you so much, as always, my friend, for joining me on Fresh Set of Downs. And we want to thank everybody else for joining us on Fresh Set of Downs each and every week. So for Daryl Daniel, I'm Bruce Badgley. Thanks, and so long for now.